Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing fandabby-dozy. We need to be looking at this clear out. Just over a week to go. I'll pull up my notes. And United are unable to bring anybody in, it seems, because we have to offload some players. Maguire, Van der Beek, Palestri, Dean Henderson. Emran is even another one that's sort of been mentioned. McTominay, potentially. These are the ones that might be able to raise a little bit of money. And without any of them going, it looks like absolute pipe dreams that United might be able to actually bring anybody in this summer. So first one then, let's talk about Donny van der Beek. We are apparently looking for another midfielder if Donny van der Beek leaves. There was some talk that Real Sociedad was going to be in for him. They seem like the most interested club in him. And if he was joining them, it might be on loan. Does that mean that we get to bring somebody in, or do we need the actual cash money of a transfer fee going in? It has been reported that Sociedad might have already ruled out a move going back in for Donny van der Beek. So what do we do with him? It's obvious Gaffer doesn't fancy him. Obvious he doesn't fancy him. Donny wasn't playing, and then you sign Mount in the same position as him. He's really not going to be playing. Palestri, Sheffield United are in talks for a deal over Palestri to join them on a season-long loan. I find this one an interesting one because even though I don't know what's happening with Ahmad, and I think Ahmad's got an opportunity here, but I don't know what's happening with Ahmad. And if you keep hold of Ahmad, you've got some competition there for Anthony on the right-hand side. Palestri, I think he's looked pretty bright, but he hasn't really lit it up. I think a loan, Sheffield United, could be a good move for him. That could result in something permanent, but I think more importantly, it'll probably give us a look at what... I think it'll probably give us a look at what he can do in the Premier League, which will be very important. Dean Henderson, apparently Crystal Palace are in talks over a move for Dean Henderson. Again, it's a loan with an obligation to buy. I don't understand why we're just looking at loans all the time and not actually looking at trying to sell somebody, because that's the one that makes the most sense to me. If you're trying to raise some money, you raise some money by selling somebody, surely, right? I am frozen on my screen over here. I'm just making sure that it's actually live for all of you lot. It might just be my bad internet connection up in here. And then, there's seemingly no talk on Maguire. The deal for him and McTominay is completely off. Obviously, West Ham are basically signing their replacements, so that's not going to happen. What are we going to do? The only other one, apparently we've agreed a deal to sell No Memorandum to Dutch side Groningen. And that's obviously after a very successful pre-season for him. What's the point in having a successful pre-season if you're then not going to use the player as part of the first team? Are we using pre-season as a shop window to move people on? Well, if that's the case, that feels like a real mad thing to do. I'm going to go on my phone for the questions. It's frozen for me on my computer, but it looks like it's still screaming, so I'll go on my phone. Randy Savage, Macho, says, no one wants to pay our players' wages. Yes. Sean says, not a bad thing. We get to see if he's good enough once he gets the opportunity. Yeah, I'm not overly arsed at Palestri going out on loan. I think having him go on a permanent or with any sort of obligation doesn't feel correct to me. I think he's still young enough to be given the opportunity to find out what he's all about. I think a loan move to a Premier League team is the one. The one that sort of weirds me out a little bit is United obviously placed this £45 million or £40 to £45 million transfer fee on McTominay. Partially because they weren't really keen on letting him go. But why aren't we keen on letting him go? Because the manager clearly doesn't want to play him. So what are we trying to move him on for? And United are a lot of players down. There's a lot of fringe players have been moved on. Obviously, Greenwood is going to be getting moved on as well. There's complications with the Greenwood one, as as I'm sure everyone sort of thought. But he's not actually had his contract terminated. Um, and United are seemingly still paying his wages while they organise a move for him. A little bit messy, I think it is with what's going on with him at the moment. And then whatever course of action the club has decided to take on this front, they have to do the same with Anthony's allegations as well. Ryan says, "Is there a chance Mason goes on loan?" That seems to be the case, yeah. Dale says, "Players wanting to stay is a pure attitude. Would you buy that kind of player?" Well, no, you wouldn't, because you only really want someone that wants to play for you. Who said it? Was it George Graham? I think George Graham said it to Fergie once. Don't sign a player that doesn't want to come to you. Don't sign a player that thinks he's doing you a favour by coming. You want your players to see your club as an opportunity for them to step up, rather than I'm doing you a favour by hanging around here. That's what you want. You want people to see where you are as a club, as a challenge. You don't want to be like, go on then, I'll turn out for you. That doesn't really work like that. Colin says, Gravenberch, Amrabat, would that hinder Mainu's minutes? I don't think so, not with the amount of games that we've got to play. Maybe both of them, if you got both of them, would do, but I don't think you're getting both of them. I think both of those players are targets for the same position. And I wonder if Gravenberch is someone that we can get later in the window. And I'm talking the last 2 days of the window, if we don't manage to sell a player. Because I think Ten Hag's preference would be someone that's here for the long run, that can buy into the project and really get stuck in on the club. And that would be Amrabat, because I think he's available cheap. Terms were agreed. Transfer fee was agreed. United now just can't push the button because we haven't managed to sell another player to be able to get him on board. So while Ten Hag's out here in press conference saying he's delighted Maguire's sticking around, I reckon publicly he's wrapped a chair around a wall somewhere. Because there's no way he's looking at the progress United are making on the pitch at the moment and going, this is exactly where I wanted us to be. Not a chance. So be wary of what managers say in press conferences, because they don't tell the truth. And they're under no obligation to tell the truth either. Kieran Gale says, how fans going to react when he plays? I assume that's about Mason. Badly, I think. Jordan says, loan with an option to buy sounds like the most realistic plan for Greenwood. I think so. Tom says, do we panic buy now? No, I don't think we are in the mood for panic buying. But we need buys. I think if it's Pavard and Amrabat that we're looking at, I don't think they're panic buys. I think they're very well thought out buys that really suit what the manager is trying to do. But they might come in late in the window because we've got absolutely no dosh whatsoever and we need to move people on. We might do some panic selling to enable the buys. But yeah, I wouldn't have said they're panic buys at the moment. And I think you've got to look at the loans as well. Ryan says, do a scout report on Duvicas from FT Utrecht. Scored 22 goals, 4 assists. Recently turned 24. 24 is a funky age for someone. Jake says, I can see some panic buys on deadline day coming our way. I think panic loans will be more likely. Raghavendra says, what about the likes of Sangai? Has a 32 million euro release clause. Nobody seems to be going for him. I think we've done scout reports on Sangai before. Yeah, I think he's a good player. Peter Knight says the Mount signing looks silly. If we're going to buy another midfielder to replace him, who else do you drop? I disagree with that. I think that having the options of playing different players in different positions is a good thing. There isn't 11 players in your team and you replace one. I think you need 16 first 11 players. I think that you have to have your options. So no, I don't think it's a massive thing. David Gardner says, can't Greenwood just sign for another club as we cancelled it? No, we haven't actually cancelled his contract. They've agreed that they're going to find a way for him to move on, I think is what's happened. IR says Richard Arnold's managed to find a way to annoy both groups of people regarding Greenwood. He's damaged the reputation of the club by even considering it. PR pints with fans can't save him, needs to go. To be honest, I don't know if that's the case. I agree he's probably pissed off both groups of people. But I think it was the correct decision. I also think that there was a U-turn performed, and I actually do think they were planning on bringing him back. And it doesn't matter actually. The fact that they got to the correct decision in the end before making a wrong decision, I think works, because it could have, if the U-turn had been after he played 2 games and it had got horrendous, that's even more damaging. So I think it was the correct decision, and they got there in the end. It is what it is. And yeah, look, no one was going to be not. Michael Bain says we still need a striker. Yeah, and I don't think Højlund's going to come in and just magically transform the playing out from the back issues. I think there's probably more signings required for that one. Amino says State should have wiped the floor with troops on 5. Well, I'm not going to do that. It's a friend of a friend, so I'm always going to be polite unless someone gives me the reason not to be polite. My thing with troops is his content is not my kind of content, but I've met troops on a couple of occasions and it's always been sound. You know, there's some people in this space that are fucking absolute snakes. But I will take every single person on how they treat me. I don't form opinions through rumor and hearsay. I'll meet people or I'll have dealings with people, and if people's dealings with me isn't what I expect, well then I'll treat them accordingly. And that's the same with everybody. And every single time I've met troops has always been sound. You know, there was a lot of aggro with DT being a complete fucking widge and a liar. When we went and played Arsenal Fan TV, and someone apparently told DT not to fucking approach me, but then he gets on Twitter as he always does and starts gobbing off. But I went and spoke to everybody. Like I said, I said hello to Claude, said hello to Ty. I mean, obviously I think Ty's off his fucking nut, but I will treat every single person as I find them. And troops came over and gave me a big hug and said, "You're all right." And then I met him a couple of times since. Like I said, his kind of content's not my kind of content. And I think he is the quintessential fucking too high, too low Arsenal fan. But in terms of him as a bloke, I've got no issues with him. Because he's never given me any cause to have issues with him. So I treat people as I find them. Parthib says, isn't Ryan Giggs on your United legend list? Yeah, he is. But I don't see what that's got to do with anything, actually. I think this has just got laggy, and it. I don't know if it's the weather here or whatever, but this is comment here says, Mel says, all YouTube football channels and the woke brigade got Greenwood cancelled. Have a word, honestly. Like, Mason's own actions is what's got him cancelled. He's even acknowledged that in his statement. Like, why are people going after anyone? Why are people going after YouTube channels? Why are people going after the club? Why are people going after the victim? Like, the only person that you should blame in this situation is Mason. He's the only person. He's responsible for his own actions, as you are, as I am, right? Nobody else made this happen. Nobody. Lee says, focus on the first 35 minutes against Spurs. Mount was excellent, created 3 big chances, didn't take them. On another day, we're 3 up and nobody says a word about the poor start. We did create chances in the first half. And I saw Sky Sports just say United were dominated. Not really. We lost the game, but we weren't dominated. And